What's up? In this video we're going to talk about triangulation. Now we briefly touched on this in the quads versus n-gons video that you should have already seen. If not, I would recommend you watch that. So what I have here is a really basic crate, nothing complicated, and this is all made out of booleans and n-gons. So like literally n-gons everywhere. There might be a few quads here and there, but overall this whole thing is pretty much n-gons. Now there is one significant problem here with all these n-gons, and this is one of the valid reasons quads are quite useful, because these problems probably wouldn't be there in most cases. Now they can. If you have a massive quad, you can get really big triangulation issues. It's a big deal. Issue with these big n-gons is that we're going to get crazy stretch triangulations, and that's going to be a big problem, especially with the bevels. And let me show you this. And I'm going to show you how to fix it. It's really easy to fix, so don't stress there. Now, everything gets triangulated after it's brought into the game engine, but depending on the software you're using, you want to make sure you triangulate beforehand, because sometimes different softwares will use different triangulation algorithms, and some of them might not be very good for your mesh. So it's always a good idea to triangulate in Blender beforehand, make sure everything looks good, and then you can work on bringing that into Substance, Unreal Engine, whatever you're using. So I'm going to select everything with the A key, and then if we press Control T, that'll add a triangulation for us. So we'll press Control T, and you can kind of see the difference here. Alright, so let's kind of take a look and see exactly what happens. So Blender by default does pretty good triangulations. It tries to detect the best possible connection points, and you can also change the connection algorithm here to really whatever you want. You can try fixed, fixed alternate, shortest diagonal, beauty. You can try clip as well for the polygon method. I don't ever use this one because I don't like it very much. I found that it tends to be worse, but yeah, you can change those up. I tend to use beauty for both of them because it tends to give you the best result for your triangulations in Blender. So this is pretty decent here on the front. As you can see, these triangulations are pretty evenly distributed, nothing crazy going on, but we do have issues when we, for example, take a look over here. These triangulations are extremely stretched, and that's going to be a big problem for the bevel. Let me show you. If I undo this and we take a look at this bevel right here, all I have is a bevel with a one segment on it, and if I press Control T to triangulate, it's going to actually push those bevels in because the clamp overlap, actually no, clamp overlap's turned off. So the reason it's kicking in is because of the loop slide option. We could turn that off and make it evenly distributed, but that kind of enforces my point that it causes stretch issues, and oftentimes this can cause issues sometimes with unwrap, sometimes with bevels, and overall you don't want to have a nasty stretch geo like this, because I've also noticed that in bakes it becomes very visible. You'll see like a really long stretched artifact when you apply a normal map. Really bad stuff. So I'm going to show you what we can do to kind of make these triangulations a bit more, I guess, manageable to work with. Really easy to do. So all we need to do is take these n-gons and kind of cut them up into more manageable n-gons, so something a bit less stretched. So I'm going to focus in on this one right here, because this one is just crazy. It's going to be an issue. So usually what I do, and there's not really a right or wrong necessarily, you just kind of have to experiment. What I usually do is I start using the knife tool to kind of cut in more convenient locations. So for example, right here what I would do is press the K key, C to cut through with a straight edge. We could press the Z key to cut through, or we could just symmetrize. So I'm going to click. To run another knife cut, we can press the E key. We're going to cut to here. I'm going to repeat the same process on all of these vertices. I'd recommend locking in your knife cuts every so often, because you can get problems like I just did there. I'll just do it again real quick. So yeah, we're just going to keep cutting through, and you can press enter to lock it in here and there. Once again, the C key is to cut straight through. The E key is to run multiple knife cuts, so you don't have to keep pressing the K key each time. I'm going to cut through there, and then I'm going to cut up through here. Now, keep in mind, we have a face right here on the bottom that we can't see because we're in orthographic view. And to get that cut through, we have to use the Z key to cut through. So press the Z key, click and press enter, and now we actually have an edge running up here, whereas otherwise it would have not cut through if we weren't using the cut through option. So at this point, I'm going to simply run a symmetry. If you want to symmetrize in Blender, really easy. All you have to do is go into edit mode, select the mesh with the A key, go up to Mesh, Symmetrize, and in this case we want to symmetrize from the positive Y. The positive is the one with the round bubble on it, and the ones that don't have any letters on it are the negative axes. So in this case, positive Y, this area, to negative Y, this area. So we're going to change this positive Y to negative Y, and we also want to do, in this case, let's see, well, we haven't done this side yet, so it won't make any difference, but this one looks good for now. Notice we also conveniently do have some quads here. For example, these areas, so this might actually help triangulate a bit nicer. We do have some n-gons here, but like I said, Blender is actually really good at connecting up the points that need to be connected up in a convenient location. Like for example, we might want to connect from here to here. And we could do that manually to help Blender out, but usually if we run a triangulation, Blender is going to do a really good job at that, and as you can see, that's exactly what it did. Now we have a much more elegant triangulation here with pretty much no issues with stretching or crazy long triangulations going on, and this is not going to cause any sort of artifact problem because it is quite manageable. Now I don't want to triangulate quite yet because I haven't fixed up this side, so let me just Control Z to undo. I just wanted to quickly show you how easy it is to kind of make the big n-gons into more manageable ones and make it triangulate better. So yeah, you could just leave it like that. Now we're going to go to this side. I guess this side is okay. And make sure we're still working on this quadrant right here, otherwise when we symmetrize, for example, if we worked on this side, the symmetrize is going to cancel out one side or the other, and we don't want that, so we're going to work just in this one quadrant here so it symmetrizes nicely for us. So this one's probably not a big deal for the triangulation, it's not too bad, but I do want to make it a bit easier in Blender. Like this one might cause some pulls, probably not, but it could. So what I'm going to do is just cut up through there. And the more you do this, like I said, the more it'll kind of become natural. This we're going to cut through, press the E key, lock that one in. These we can join. If you want to join two vertices together, instead of pressing the K key, you can press the J key. But in this case, like right here, we don't have any vertices to join to, so I'm going to simply cut through. This shouldn't be a big deal. If you wanted to keep it even and consistent, you could cut through on this one. I don't think I'm going to bother with it. Okay, that looks good. This one can be joined right to here. And maybe to make this a bit easier, it should be automatic, but we'll just tell Blender to join to that one. And also, you know what? We'll leave that alone. Let's try Control T again, see how this looks. See how much nicer this is? These are pretty even triangulations. There's not going to really be any pulls or any big issues with it. And this is pretty much exactly what we need. Now I was going to say we could perhaps completely make this into an n-gon with the F key. And it's just going to do a single, or maybe it's not because of these vertices, but I like to keep it nice and consistent, so I'm going to leave that alone. And this is a pretty decent triangulation. I don't think there's going to be any real problems with this one. I'm going to help Blender a bit more, maybe join this one to this one. Control T. I think it was basically the same thing before. Yeah. Notice how Blender and I are kind of thinking alike in terms of where to connect it. I'm telling you, Blender is good. It's like, it's almost human. So we're going to do that. Symmetrize to negative x to positive x, which is the default. And now what we have is a pretty decent triangulation here. This should not cause any real problems with our bakes. This is all I wanted to show in this video. I will, of course, show the whole process in the actual part of the course, but I really want to get all the fundamentals out of the way, so that way you at least have an idea of what we're doing when we start the course. And I will show you this in wireframe. Oops, did I undo it off camera? I think I did. But look at this. Look at how low poly this game asset is. Yeah, I think I did the undo button off camera. Let me symmetrize that. This is a really low poly mesh. We have a one segment bevel, and it looks pretty darn good. So whether we modeled this with quads or whether we modeled this with n-gons, everything is going to get triangulated in the game engine anyways. So the game engine is not going to even read this as quads in the first place. So anyone saying the quads are causing some sort of, magic, it's simply not true unless you have a very good reason to use them. And in this example, using the n-gon, Boolean, and bevel workflow is very convenient, very quick, and gets us the exact result that we want.